Tash Dile and welcome to Tibet this week. This is Sakina Bhatt with another edition of Weekly News on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's look at the headlines. His Holiness the Dalai Lama on conflict, COVID and compassion. His Holiness the Dalai Lama to release new book on climate change. His Holiness the Dalai Lama expresses sympathy for flood affected in Bihar. Sikyong completes 9th year in office, urges Tibetans to rededicate effort towards Tibetan cause. Speaker Pema Jungney congratulates newly elected Rajya Sabha MPs. Office of Tibet Taiwan pays tribute to late Lee Teng-hui. Solo protest at Chinese embassy in Brussels. His Holiness the Dalai Lama engaged in a dialogue on conflict, COVID and compassion with the United States Institute of Peace and the Generation Change Fellows on Wednesday this week. His Holiness expressed his optimism for a better future and said His Holiness sees the young minds today are more open that makes humanity more realistic. Upon answering to a young woman's question on coping with the prevailing uncertainty, His Holiness suggested that when people have a clearer view of reality, they are less subject to destructive emotions like despondency.
So, the problem, outside problem, even Buddha cannot remove. Jesus Christ also cannot remove. So long, all spiritual leaders, then you see, they mentioned inner world, the theistic religion like Christianity, Judaism, and Muslim, and so on. You see, they emphasize faith here and try to tolerance, forgiveness, contentment.
Since 2015, United States Institute of Peace has been bringing young leaders from conflict-affected regions to Dharamshala to seek His Holiness's advice and guidance on becoming world leaders committed to building peace. His Holiness the Dalai Lama is expected to release a new book on climate change titled Our Only Home, A Climate Appeal to the World, with German environmental journalist Franz Alt in November 2020. In his book, His Holiness the Dalai Lama calls on political decision makers to fight against deadlock and ignorance on the issue of climate change and to stand up for a different, more climate-friendly world and for the younger generation to assert their right to regain its future. His Holiness the Dalai Lama wrote to Bihar's Chief Minister Nitish Kumar expressing his sympathy for flood affected in Bihar and makes a donation towards the relief and rescue efforts. His Holiness suggested as a friend that since such disasters occur almost every year, long-term solutions to such calamities should be explored. Flooding caused by heavy rains in the Indian state of Bihar has claimed 23 lives, while the number of people affected by the calamity has risen to 74 lakh, according to Tuesday reports. On the completion of his 9th and penultimate term as the President of Central Tibetan Administration, Dr. Lobsang Singye issued a political statement in which he spoke on issues ranging from the global attitudinal shift towards China and its bearing on the global Tibet movement, the COVID-19 as a catalyst to the global discourse, and social, moral and political responsibilities of Tibetans in light of these new developments. With the US and many leading countries poised to harden their stance against China's suppression and the violation of democratic rights, and many already decoupling from trade partnerships, provide an opportunity for the world to reappreciate the Tibetan cause. In the light, Sikyong appealed to the Tibetan community in exile to rededicate efforts to advance the Tibet cause globally. Speaker of the Tibetan Parliament in Exile, Pema Jungney, on behalf of all the Tibetans and the 16th Tibetan Parliament in Exile, extends his hearty congratulations to the 45 newly elected members of the Rajya Sabha who recently took oath in the House chamber. In the congratulatory letter, the Speaker wrote, we are genuinely grateful and indebted to the people and the government of India for providing staunch support towards the struggle and the cause of Tibet for more than 6 decades. I believe that the people and the government will continue to do so in the future as well. The Office of Tibet Taiwan, led by Representative Dawat Tsering, visited the memorial site built in the memory of late Lee Teng-hui, Taiwan's father of democracy, and paid respect on Monday this week. Lee Teng-hui was an ardent Tibet supporter, and during his tenure as the president, he hosted His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Taiwan in 1997, which gradually led to the establishment of the Office of Tibet in Taiwan under his eminent leadership. Their historic meeting strengthened the friendship between Taiwan and the Central Tibetan Administration. His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Central Tibetan Administration offered their condolences to family and the people of Taiwan last week. Mingmar Tsering, a Tibetan living in Brussels, is staging a solo protest in front of the Chinese embassy in Brussels to highlight China's egregious human rights violations for over 6 decades in his homeland, Tibet. Mingmar decided to stage solo peaceful protest every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. The lone political activism was started on Wednesday, 29th July 2020, and is intended to continue for a year. He distributes leaflets to the public while walking the protest location and on his way back. Thus, he covers a distance of 7.4 kilometers every Wednesday. So much for today. See you next time and have a great weekend.